of Florence, and we're looking at Ghiberti's The Gates of Paradise.
Although we're in the museum for the works of the cathedral, these doors were not for the Cathedral of Florence. These doors were for the baptistry, an incredibly important building in the history of Florence. So the heart of Florence is the cathedral and the baptistry, these two buildings that stand side by side. And the baptistry was the place where the citizens of Florence would be baptized. And like many baptistries, it is an octagonal building. They were called the Gates of Paradise because they were so beautiful. And this goes back to Michelangelo, who referred to them this way. But of course, this is legend.
Well, he said that these doors were so beautiful that they could actually be the doors of heaven itself. This was the final set of bronze doors to be cast for the baptistry. The first set were coming out of the medieval tradition.
They were by Andrea Pisano, and the subject of those doors was the life of St. John the Baptist. And that makes sense for a baptistry.
The second set of doors were by Ghiberti, but at the beginning of his career. He had won a competition that had come down to him and Brunelleschi, and he was victorious and would go on to cast, quite famously, this extraordinary earlier set of doors. When those were finally finished, he received this commission.
Even though these doors by Ghiberti were intended for the north side, when they were done, they were considered so beautiful that they were placed on the east side facing the cathedral itself, the place of honor.
Now, the doors have recently been conserved, and they are spectacular. Only a few years ago, they were black with grime, but now all that original gilding is visible. All of the extraordinary detail here is visible, and we can see why the Florentines wanted to move them to the most prominent place.
And why Michelangelo referred to them as the Gates of Paradise. Now, we should say first, too, that this was commissioned by the wealthiest of the guilds of Florence. So this was commissioned by the Guild of Wool Merchants. We might wonder why so much energy was spent on doors.
Doors historically have been the place where one focuses sculptural attention. If you look at medieval cathedrals, the doors are often surrounded by the most elaborate carving. But if you go all the way back to the classical tradition, if you go back to ancient Rome, there is a great tradition of bronze doors.
Right, so we have the great bronze doors on the Pantheon.
And it makes sense that the Florentines would want bronze doors in this tradition on the baptistry, since the Florentines believed that their baptistry had ancient roots, that it was a classical Roman building. So when we walk up to the doors, the first thing I notice is just how big they are. Now, these are very different from the earlier doors, which were much more Gothic in their design. And most specifically, each of the main